Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Jolene Brighten, a leading expert in post-birth control syndrome. And today I am joined by Rachel, who's going to share with us her hormonal birth control story. Rachel, thank you so much for joining me and for being so generous with your time.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I would love if you could begin with when you started hormonal birth control and why you started it.
Okay. Well, I was moving. I lived in Pittsburgh at the time, and I went on vacation and met my fiance now. Anyways, lived in Florida. He was not interested in doing his part in the process, so I got an IUD put in about 3 months before I moved here to Florida. And then about 3 months after that, I had gotten like horrible cystic acne on my face. And it was
And
just like,
was that a Mirena IUD? Which IUD
yeah,
was it?
yeah, it was
Okay.
Mirena. And I'm a nutrition coach. So like, I kind of understand why, like what's going on. And it's like, okay, well, a skin condition is a symptom of a problem. It's not a problem. There's a different problem. So I tried to kind of go through my whole story, all of my knowledge that I had, and was like, okay, let's start knocking some things out. I knew I couldn't get my androgens tested, obviously, because I had an IUD put in. So I was like, what else can I do? I was like, well, I can check on my gut health. So I didn't have any like gluten, dairy, sugar, alcohol, nothing for 4 months. I got blood work done to see if it was like a sugar insulin problem, and it wasn't. I went to a dermatologist to see if maybe I had damaged my skin in the sun the first, week or summer in Florida, I guess. I got rid of all of my, like I redid all of my cleaning products and my skincare and made sure everything was natural, and then got rid of all of the plastics in the house and anything nonstick, like just kind of like the whole thing, and nothing got better. And the more research I had done, the more it always came back to the birth control that I was put on. It was the only, like the only thing that I couldn't get done. And then the other thing that I noticed is the more I researched the birth control, the more I learned about it and how revolutionary it was that this stuff isn't really out there. Like women don't really know, and like how important it is for us to know. Like when we get prescribed birth control, they just said, okay, there's blood clots and, the regular things, like just so you know, but there's this huge other spectrum of birth control that they don't tell you about. So it's like, now I'm in this like whole nother world of what I need to tell women about, and this has kind of led me into the journey of, trying to tell people about this and have them know about, what happened to you and like how to prevent it, how to make it easier, there are better options.
So how long so you got the Mirena IUD, within months you developed cystic acne. How long did you struggle with your skin before having that aha moment of like, okay, I'm assuming you had your IUD removed?
I did. Yeah. I had a really big problem. I live in like a really small beach town, and apparently there's this mass shortage of gynecologists in this area. And
How is that a thing?
Right? Like I couldn't get, as a new patient, I couldn't get a doctor and a gynecologist appointment until 8 months I was here. And I called every office and I'm like, I can't wait 8 months. So I had waited another 3 months to get a PCP doctor's appointment to get like all the other stuff, like the ultrasound for PCOS and the blood work done and everything else. Like while I was waiting. So it's like, I can't take it out myself. I don't know how,
Yeah, no, that's not advised.
I even was like, if I go to the emergency room and saying like, there's something affecting me, will they take it out? And they said, no. And I was like, well, so I had this like whole waiting period. So it was like, 8 months You know, it was a while. It was awful.
And all the while you were, you have a nutrition education, so you were eating right, you were doing all the things that you knew to do, trying to take care of your gut. Cystic acne is persisting. You can't get your IUD removed. That's quite ridiculous. In women's medicine, I'm like, it should be a crime to stick a device in a woman and not be able to get that removed the day she decides she wants that to be removed. So what happened once the IUD was taken out?
Not a whole lot. I mean, I was at least educated enough of, what to do prior to it getting out, making sure that I was in, my best health. And then, just trying to, I supplement with zinc, and I did a liver cleanse to try and get all that out of me. And it's only been about a month, but, just because of everything I've done for my health prior, that now, like, I've already gotten a regular period, I don't have any symptoms right now. And I know I can still get symptoms, up to 12 months, but post pill, but it's been fine so far, like, if you're healthy, that will help the process for sure.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you speaking to that, because that's a really big piece of how do you prevent post-birth control syndrome. You do the work before you have it removed. Now for you, you were like, one, you were educated, and two, you were like, well, I don't have a choice because I can't get this thing out. So I've got to do something. And like, you did everything that was within your control. And I think you're not the only woman I've spoken with who couldn't get her IUD out, or who couldn't get the implant out of her arm, like things like that, because doctors, not having health insurance, or doctor appointment not being available, not having a gynecologist at all. This is a new one, in terms of like that's a long time to wait to have to see a gynecologist. But with that, so many women who have an easier time transitioning off have been doing the work leading up to that. And the liver cleanse, I mean, this is something that all the time I'm out there saying to women, like, one of the most effective things you can do is do like a practitioner grade, like supplement liver cleanse. You got to have the food base with it as well, but especially with skin and these symptoms, because that organ gets hit so hard with hormonal birth control. So it's only been a month. How is your skin? I'm looking at you, but
it's definitely better. I don't know, maybe you can answer this. There's a weird phenomenon because it started here, right? And then it went down, and the most of it was like along my jawline, hormones, just everything kept pointing to that direction. And now it's like all the way down here. And I understand like things in the body, like you like move downwards, right? Like lactic acid goes downwards, like stuff like that. Like maybe I'm at the end of it, right? Because it's like all the way here. So I don't know, that might not be true. That might be something just going on in my head, but I feel like it's moved.
Yeah, so it can be. So you were on these synthetic hormones, and so that was affecting like where it was presenting on your skin and making it a little bit more confounding. Like it's harder to know. It's showing up on the jawline itself. That is suggestive of testosterone and androgen. And there's something called an androgen rebound when you take away hormonal birth control, where now your skin can start getting oily and you can start having acne along the jawline. And that's something that if you haven't had hormone testing yet, this is it's often recommended that you wait like 3-6 months after having hormonal birth control removed to understand like really clearly what's going on. But within my practice, we do things differently because I am monitoring women on hormonal birth control when they like immediately when they come off of it, the first cycle, and then we test again later. And that's because I'm developing protocols and I'm testing data, and I want to collect all of this. But something I see quite often is that when women come off of any form of hormonal birth control is that their DHT can actually be shifted, and that can be higher. So you have testosterone, which is that we think male hormone, but it's also why we have muscles and, a libido and a happy mood and feel motivated. It's very important for women. but your 5-alpha reductase activity can be upregulated. And then you'll be shunting everything into DHT. Now we're losing hair on our head and we're getting this cystic acne. And then, you know, my concern always is when women are saying like, I'm getting acne along the jawline, is like, let's watch that. If you're starting to get hair growth, like there needs to be intervention. And things as simple as like saw palmetto. Certainly zinc helps with all of that, but saw palmetto.
Taking saw palmetto too.
Oh, awesome stuff. Yeah. And that can be really effective, but the skin is it's one of the last areas we typically see healing. And I always say this, like, oh, the skin and the libido are like the last that women resolve. But then I talk to women that are like, I had my IUD out and boom, my libido's back. And it's like, okay, see, there's exceptions to the rules all the time. Yeah. But looking at like the inflammatory component, because hormonal birth control is inflammatory. And as you know, your microbiome has a lot to do with your skin health, and understanding like, in women, if it's not your ovaries making that testosterone, then it's usually your adrenal glands. And that's something that's like, okay, you're probably kicking out DHEA. And, you know, if you're a nutritionist, you probably don't have blood sugar dysregulation issues, but you may very well benefit from doing a second round of like a liver detox, because that, you know, once you're on it, on these hormones, doing a liver detox is really helpful. And then when you come off, repeating that, that's usually like, I'll have women say to me, for the first time in my life, I don't have acne on my back. So the first time in my life, I'm not covering up my shoulders because of outbreaks. But does that all make sense to you in terms of what I'm saying?
Do you recommend like month after month, or do you recommend doing liver cleanse, taking a break, and then do another month?
Yeah. So usually what I say is that, you know, I actually love my, I have a paleo detox, and it's a bone broth based powder. And so I'm taking that like quite frequently. But when when I'm talking with patients in my practice, I'll usually say like, the first month you come off, that's a good time to go ahead and do that, unless we're working on gut symptoms. So I'll caveat that, especially if I have a patient listening that's like, wait a minute, you didn't have me do that. Well, you were constipated. You would have felt worse. Like we couldn't do that piece yet. So, I mean, the bowels have to be moving, but we usually do it that first month, and then we repeat again in about 2 to 3 months. And it just depends on what's going on. Like, if outbreaks seem really out of control, there's weird rashes going on, like melasma is another thing that comes up with birth control, which is hyperpigmentation. Then we may repeat it again. And that's because these detox powders and the antioxidants, like I have a whole kit that I have for women, but it's higher in antioxidants, which is going to start healing up that skin a whole lot quicker. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I have bone broth because I haven't been doing like whey protein. But yeah, it definitely all makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And are you a fitness instructor? Or do you weightlift?
I do Olympic weightlifting and powerlifting and personal training. Yeah.
Yeah. You have very nice shoulders. Like that's why I'm like, I noticed that. And so, you know, for you, with the, you know, why I consider that is because that's what, so usually whey protein, you lift weights if you're using whey protein, but having, it can be bone broth based. It can be, you know, just a complete protein powder. Getting something like a beef base that's a grass-fed animal. When you have the isoleucine, leucine, and valine, the branched chain amino acids after your workout, that's a way to actually get insulin up so that you build more muscle. So within the first 30 minutes of your workout. But, you know, when we're having acne and outbreaks like that, we want to avoid that kind of protein load first thing in the morning, because it can spike our insulin first thing in the morning. And so it's more like higher fats and eating leafy green vegetables. So it looks a little more keto, but I wouldn't call it keto in that way. Yeah. And then putting the carbohydrates and that protein, loading that later in the day when your body is ready to handle like those insulin levels. Has it been something where, have you ever been diagnosed with PCOS? Did you have irregular periods ever before?
No. And I honestly just got it because I was in that lull of, I don't have a gynecologist, what else can I do? So I went and at least got the ultrasound for PCOS to say, you know, I know this could be one of the things causing this. So I kind of wanted to knock out everything I could do at that time. And, you know, I work out also first thing in the morning. So I've still been having carbohydrates in my breakfast because I need to have my breakfast and then I go work out. But I haven't done, you know, the lower blood sugar breakfast since, but I guess it's definitely time to try that out. I just didn't want it to be affecting my workout. You know, I didn't want to be drained halfway through it.
Totally. And also that,
they're heavy.
yeah, and too much fat is like not going to be good because it's slower. You're going to absorb it slower. But
yeah.
The interesting, so my, when I was getting my master's in nutrition, my graduate work was in what's called sarcopenic obesity. And so that's just natural muscle wasting that happens in people. And the best way to prevent that was with branched chain amino acids. And so what's interesting about branched chain amino acids is that, and you might know this already, but if you get them in that 30-minute window, they actually get deposited in your muscles as energy for the next workout. And so what I find with patients who are, I work with a lot of CrossFit and power lifters, and some of my best friends are Olympic lifters. And what I find is that if they eat that protein, they really load that protein within 30 minutes of their workout, the carbohydrate need for the next workout, like eating that before, is much less because they have that energy store within their muscles. And so now they're using the branched chain amino acids with that. But whenever, I would say go slow with the carbohydrate, like tapering it down, because it's going to affect your workout if suddenly you're like, I'm not having carbs, and then you go into your workout. I mean, it usually does. It can't, like I say, there's always exceptions to the rules with that. Yeah.
And then having them later on during the day, you know, right before I go to bed, will carry on for the morning anyways.
Yeah. And that's something that, you know, I will have women with dinner, like have sweet potato with their fat and their protein, or even I like doing like having women have like a turmeric latte at night with like fat in it and adding some collagen in it. Collagen is less with branched chain amino acids, but it's higher in glycine, and that'll help you sleep through the night. And as women, you know, we can wake up at night having we feel like we're having hot flashes. We don't know why we're waking up. It can actually be blood sugar dysregulation. And so that's another piece with acne. Blood sugar dysregulation will drive that acne crazy, but if you are having that through the night, like one way to avoid that is making sure that you're having that fat and protein at night, and then maybe some carbohydrates with dinner, so that takes you through the night. And then that's the other thing too about, I mean, turmeric is a great anti-inflammatory, but you can also mix it up with like coconut oil and apply it topically if you've got, like, that's one of my tricks. I remember back in the day, everybody was like, if you have a zit, then just put preparation H on it, which is always weird to think about. But I have patients where I'm like, if you have a zit, mix up some turmeric and coconut oil, put it on there for 30 minutes. It'll start taking down the inflammation. And so you can leverage that turmeric internal and external as well.
Okay.
So what are you working on now in terms of your body? So you've gotten the IUD out. You've been struggling a bit with acne. And I'm trying to recall, did you have a period come back yet?
Yeah.
Okay. And was that like a couple weeks later? Was it 4 weeks later?
I had spotting just about every week, and I think the third week I actually got a real period.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's the thing about IUDs is we just see the weirdest kind of bleeding, like whether women are on them or coming off of them. It's like, I've had patients that are like, they bleed every single day for weeks on end, and it's not substantial enough that their doctor's like, oh, a little bit of spotting, but it's like, but you're in spotting for like 10 weeks. Like, that's just annoying. Like, there's like quality of life as well. So that's super fantastic that you're able to recover your period. Again, it speaks to so much of the work that you've been doing already with that.
Not only that is I have a Daisy fertility monitor. So I've been tracking, my temperature in the morning, and it's already picked up all of my cycles. Like, I already have all of the colors and all that's already in. So I know I've ovulated already.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, like,
Daisy
I was expecting months, of weirdness. I was expecting months. So
yeah, so there can still be some hiccups going forward. So just so you know, don't panic, because again, your body is just figuring out its own rhythm. Fortunately, you weren't on this for a long period of time. But I mean, I always think Daisy's incredible like that. I tried taking charge of your fertility and doing the mapping myself. And I was like, I don't have any patience in this, and I don't trust myself. And when when I started my Daisy fertility monitor, and the first month it predicted my period was coming, and it was only like, I had only been using it for like maybe 3 weeks. And I was like, what is this? No, and I didn't even go like think anything of it. And then sure enough, I started my period. And like, that's the beautiful thing about hormones and balance is it's a double-edged sword. My period literally sneaks up on me if I'm not paying attention. Like all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I started my period. Like I didn't have any cramps. My mood didn't change. Like there were none of those like overt symptoms going on that so many of us go through. But yeah, the first time Daisy caught it, and I tell women that all the time, I'm like, Daisy is so dialed in with like thousands of women's data that it can get there a lot quicker than you can just charting on your own.
Definitely.
So how's it going with the Daisy? Are you feeling confident in that?
I'm confident in it. My fiance is not confident in it just yet.
Totally. You know, we talk we talk a lot about how we need to educate women more, you know, about their bodies, but it's something I have a 5-year-old son, and I say like, you know, I'm trying to raise a like period positive female body literate male, because my husband was the same way. He was like, I don't know about this like temperature thing that you're doing. And he's like, but you're the doctor. I'm going to trust you in this. And I'm like, do you understand that like I'm ovulating? I got like 1 day to get in there and make a baby, and your sperm has like 5 days to live. Like that's a very finite window in a month, like to be able to get pregnant. And so I'm excited to hear that you are using that. And so what are your, you know, plans in going forward in terms of your health and the things that you're focusing on?
Not much right now. You know, I just want to stay really healthy during this time, because I know I could be looking at a year, you know, ahead. So I'm definitely not going to be doing anything weird, or really anything new. We are getting married at the end of next year. So like, I wanted to have this be completely behind me by then, you know, so it's not going to be, I didn't get it taken out because I'm going to have a baby anytime soon. Because that will need to wait till a couple more years
until you're ready.
But but not really a whole lot. I want to continue my education, and definitely in women's health, and you know, try and find, you know, the next area of expertise for me, so that I can help more people and tell more people about this, you know, just like you're doing.
Absolutely. I'm curious, how did you come across me?
Instagram. And you've been on a couple of podcasts I've listened to with like Well-Fed Women or Meet at Hippie. One of those I think you were on. I listen to those girls all the time.
Awesome. So for women who are on hormonal birth control now, maybe they're feeling like suspicious of that's causing their symptoms, or maybe they're feeling afraid of coming off. Is there anything that you would want to share with them?
You know, the big thing is to tell them that there are more options out there, to kind of draw the connections to, you know, different things. Like if you're having a thyroid problem, this is how birth control will affect that problem. You know, if you're having this problem, this is how birth control affects it. So like, you know, and a lot of the times they can do what I did. You know, they can eliminate all the other factors, you know, figure out, you know, if it is not one of them, what are we left with? Let's focus on your birth control again, you know, but also making them comfortable to know that this isn't the only solution, you know, and that it's not just, you're not forced to be on this just because you don't want to have a baby. Like there are other ways.
Mm-hmm. Well said. I love that. Well, thank you so much. If women are wanting to check out what you do, follow your story, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram. My Instagram name is Thurby with an IEE. I work for ActiveWorks Nutrition. I'm a nutrition coach on that team. And they can definitely find me on there and ask me questions.
Yeah, you have beautiful pictures on there. I would say, once you said your Instagram handle, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I remember those bikini shots. And I was like, that girl is fit.
I do my best.
Well, awesome. I really appreciate you sharing this, you know, and sharing your story. It's something that so many women reach out to me with their stories, and they're like, am I the only one? And so that's why, you know, I'm putting together these interviews and making these available to women, because when they hear other women's story, they know what's possible and they know that they're not alone in this.
Yeah.